Ethan Carter, from the prestigious Hanwei family, chased after me for 3 years. Despite my parents' strong objections, I still married him without hesitation. After we got married, my parents died in an unexpected accident. As their only daughter, I handed over my family's business to Ethan, letting him take charge and rise to a high position. Once he gained complete control, he teamed up with my best friend, Rachel Young, and tried to push me and my 2-year-old daughter off a building, attempting to make it look like I had taken my own life due to depression. I confronted him, asking, "Ethan, how could you be so vicious? You're even willing to harm your own flesh and blood?" Ethan responded without a hint of remorse. "Emily, after all these years, you still haven't figured it out? The one I've always truly loved is Rachel. In fact, we already have a son together, you and your daughter. You were never meant to be part of the picture." Rachel laughed so hard she cried. "Wow, rich girls really are dumb and naive. It's just such a shame about your brilliant parents. We never intended to kill them, you know?" In that moment, I completely broke down. In utter despair, I tried to drag them down with me. But instead, they pushed me and my daughter off the 20th floor. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 3 years earlier. As I regained consciousness, still overwhelmed by the pain and the feeling of falling, I heard Ethan's voice by my ear. "Emily, we're having a baby. I'm going to be a dad. I'm so happy." The scene in front of me stunned me for a few seconds. Ethan was holding a pregnancy test in his hand, looking flustered and overcome with emotion, tears streaming down his face. It suddenly hit me. This was the day I had just found out I was pregnant. Back then, I hadn't noticed it at all, but now I realized how incredible Ethan's acting had been. The Oscars owed him a golden statue. Disgust and hatred surged through me all at once. I stood up and slapped him hard across the face. Ethan clutched his left cheek, which was quickly turning red and swollen, and looked at me in disbelief. "Emily, what's going on with you?" I gritted my teeth, forced down the urge to rip him apart, sat back down, and said slowly, "Sorry, maybe it's the hormones. Pregnancy's making me moody and unpredictable. Sorry you had to deal with that." I caught a fleeting trace of darkness in Ethan's eyes, but it was quickly covered by a gentle and understanding smile. "As long as it helps you feel better, I don't mind a little pain," he said. "Don't worry, Emily. I'll do my best to take care of you and the baby." I stayed silent, watching coldly as he continued his performance. Ethan knelt down and held my hand again, saying, "Emily, you're pregnant now. You should stay home and rest. Don't work too hard. I'll worry about you. Why don't I take over your responsibilities at the company for now? What do you think?" "That's probably not a good idea," I replied, pulling my hand back and looking at him. "Didn't you always want to succeed on your own merits? To prove your worth to my parents? If you take over my position and join the family business this way, wouldn't all your past efforts become a joke?" Ethan paused for a moment, his face darkening slightly. Then he sat beside me and put an arm around my shoulder. His voice suddenly choked with emotion. "Emily, we've been married for 2 years. I've always tried to improve my relationship with your parents, but they've never liked seeing me. I had to create opportunities for myself. Now that you're pregnant, this is the best time for me to join the company. I'll work hard and help carry the load. With time, they'll come to see what kind of person I really am. I don't want you to keep being stuck between us." I stared at the man in front of me, his fake sincerity making me want to laugh at myself. In my past life, I had been completely moved by these very words. I had gone to my parents, begging them to let Ethan take my place in the company. But they refused. They had never liked Ethan. They always said he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. His eyes revealed deep-seated insecurity, jealousy, cunning, and unrelenting ambition. Ambition itself wasn't a bad thing. But for someone like him, the moment his wings grew strong enough, he'd flip the whole table, take control, and silence anyone who ever doubted him. All the tolerance and humility he showed before? That was just an investment he intended to cash in on. A man like that was never meant to share a bed with. But I didn't listen. I just didn't. Back then, all I saw in Ethan Carter was his gentleness, good looks, patience, and talent. Who would have thought that 2 business elites, my parents, powerful and sharp as they were, would end up promoting a clueless, love-struck fool like me to CEO of stupidity? I went ahead with the wedding behind their backs, stealing the household registration book to marry Ethan without their consent. My parents were so furious they nearly passed out from rage. Then, using my pregnancy as leverage, I threatened them to let Ethan join the company. With trembling hands, they popped emergency heart medication and reluctantly nodded in agreement. I hate myself for it. I should have died. I was the one who invited a wolf into our home. I caused my parents' deaths and ruined a once happy and complete family. Snapping out of my thoughts, I stood up, shaking slightly, and began packing my things. I needed to stay at my parents' place for a couple of days. I'd also take the chance to talk to them about Ethan joining the company. Ethan didn't sense anything unusual when I told him. He even chuckled and said, "Emily, I'll go make your favorite steak. After dinner, I'll drive you over." Looking at how cheerful he was, I wanted nothing more than to gouge out my own eyes. How had I not seen it in my past life? A man so driven by ambition and calculation. How could I have been so blind? Just then, there was a knock at the door. It wasn't anyone else. It was my dearest best friend, Rachel Young. She was wearing a red dress with a plunging neckline that showed off her chest. Every movement of hers exuded seduction and charm. "Emily, I've missed you so much," she squealed, arms wide open, trying to hug me. In my previous life, I had trusted her completely, but she was all sweetness on the surface and venom underneath. Vicious beyond belief, she had played me like a fool all along. Fueled by that thought, I shoved her back and, without warning, slapped her across the face. Rachel screamed and clutched her cheek, eyes suddenly guarded. "Emily Lynn, did you find out something? Don't believe it. None of it's true." Ethan rushed out from the kitchen and tugged on her arm, speaking carefully. "Emily, what's going on? Is it the pregnancy? Are you just feeling a little irritable?" "You're pregnant?" Rachel asked in surprise. I nodded. "Sorry, Rachel. Someone tried to hug me the second I opened the door. I didn't realize it was you. I thought it was some creep." Then I added, casually but pointedly, "But what exactly did you mean by what you just said?" Rachel shot Ethan a fierce glare as if accusing him. "Nothing," she said flatly. "Really? Congratulations, you two." "Thanks," I replied, staring at their matching swollen cheeks with great satisfaction. "Now that's what a real couple should look like." "I wasn't planning on leaving this time," Rachel said, flashing a flirtatious smile. "I want to stay in Clearview for a while. Emily, can I crash at your place?" It wasn't until much later in my previous life that I learned the truth. Ethan, who came from a broken family, had fallen for Rachel back in high school. She was the only light in his life. They graduated from the same school in their small hometown and both got into Clearview University, though they majored in different subjects. Rachel was my college roommate. After visiting my house once by chance, she slowly became my closest friend. With her help, her boyfriend Ethan and I had a series of accidental run-ins. Then came more contact. After 3 years of relentless pursuit, I, completely unaware of the truth, finally accepted Ethan's love and gave him mine. At graduation, I married Ethan and stayed in Clearview. Rachel chose to move to Zesity alone, supposedly to start her career. But really, it made it easier for her and Ethan to carry on their affair without my knowledge. My pregnancy made Rachel feel anxious and insecure. That's why she now desperately wanted to come back to Clearview, to stay close to Ethan. He had once sworn to her that he'd never let me get pregnant. After all, he had been giving me strong doses of birth control after we got married. Our marriage had been just a performance. Their real goal was to seize my family's wealth. But somehow, I still ended up pregnant. In my previous life, Rachel had also asked to stay in Clearview. Of course, Ethan wouldn't allow it. He stopped her, and she eventually compromised, returning to Zesity. They later had a child together, a secret they kept hidden from me until my death. Thinking of all that, I said, "Stay? What do you mean, stay? This is your home too, and if Ethan dares say otherwise, I suggest he keep it to himself." I turned to him and continued with a cold smile. "Rachel is my best friend. That spare bedroom? It's always been reserved for her. If she's here with me, I'll be able to rest more peacefully during my pregnancy." Ethan opened his mouth but didn't say a word. Rachel immediately leaned in with a delighted smile. "Emily, you're so good to me." I held back the nausea rising in my throat and turned my head away in disgust. "Rachel Young, no matter how well I treated you, all you ever did was repay kindness with betrayal." Sure enough, her next line was, "Emily, could I ask Ethan to drive me back to the hotel to grab my luggage?" God, she couldn't even pretend to wait. Her eagerness to move in and play house was almost comical. Sure, take your time packing, and after that, make him treat you to dinner, I said coolly. Oh, and I won't be home the next few days. I've already told my parents I'll be staying with them for a bit. The driver should be here to pick me up any minute now. Ethan said a few fake-sounding words of concern on the way out, then quickly grabbed the car keys and left with Rachel. I pulled out my phone and called my mom. The moment her warm, familiar voice came through the receiver, I couldn't hold back the wave of emotion. I covered my mouth and burst into tears. It wasn't until I had lost them that I truly realized my parents were the strongest and most precious anchors in my life. I told my mom I wanted to stay with them for a few days. She was thrilled. Even though we lived in the same city, I hadn't spent a single night at their place since getting married. Mostly because I didn't want Ethan to be upset. She said she'd send Uncle Zhang to pick me up. He'd been our driver since I was in kindergarten, but to me he was more than that. He was practically family. Uncle Zhang was as efficient as ever. Within an hour he arrived, not only with the car, but with the hidden surveillance cameras I'd asked for, latest model. Then I called Vincent Carter. He didn't pick up until the second ring. The background was unusually quiet, but if you listened carefully, you could hear him breathing, restrained, slightly shaky. He was clearly trying to keep it together. Disgusting. No doubt the two of them weren't planning on coming back anytime soon. I said a few casual things, then hung up and calmly began installing the hidden cameras in every room of the house. I was looking forward to what surprises they might give me next. Uncle Zhang loaded my luggage into the trunk and opened the car door to take me to my parents' place. The moment I saw the black Maybach parked outside, a flood of terrifying memories overwhelmed me. In my previous life, when I was 8 months pregnant, an oil tanker had slammed into this very car. My parents and Uncle Zhang had all died in that inferno. When I got the news, I was so devastated I went into early labor. My baby was born prematurely and rushed to the hospital. I didn't even get the chance to attend my parents' funeral. By the time I woke up and left the hospital, Ethan had already handled everything, erasing every trace of the truth. Uncle Zhang, I said quietly, can you find some people to keep an eye on Ethan and Rachel for me? For the first time in what felt like forever, the usually stone-faced Uncle Zhang smiled faintly. I guess I wasn't the only one who could finally see through them. That night, my mom personally cooked a table full of my favorite dishes. My dad even got off work early just to have dinner with me. For the first time in ages, we sat around the table like we used to, laughing, chatting, and just enjoying each other's company. It wasn't until then that I realized how peaceful and harmonious life was without Ethan around. After dinner, I told my parents I was pregnant. I could see they were both happy and concerned. Mom, Dad, I want to let Ethan join the company, I said carefully. No, they responded immediately, just like they had in the past. Please, just listen to me first, I said. Then, I told them everything that had happened in my previous life and how I had come back to this moment. As business people, my parents had always held a healthy respect for fate. They were stunned, of course, but they believed me. They already hadn't thought very highly of Ethan, but now they realized they had seriously underestimated both him and Rachel. From the second semester of our freshman year, Rachel had been coming to our house, always complaining about how poor her family was. When my parents found out, they started covering her tuition and living expenses until graduation. They never expected gratitude, but they also never imagined she'd harbor such malice toward us all along. Leaving Ethan was easy, but that wasn't enough for me. I wanted revenge, and my parents supported me completely. We'd build him up, make him believe he was invincible, then crush him into dust. That night, I called Ethan and told him the good news. My parents had agreed to let him join the company, a clear sign of trust and approval. After I hung up, I opened the surveillance app on my phone and watched the live feed from the house. Ethan had opened a bottle of red wine. He and Rachel were clinking glasses, celebrating. They were one step closer to stealing my family's wealth. And the whole time, they were laughing, mocking me, calling me a stupid bitch. They couldn't even help themselves. From the living room, they moved to the master bedroom, my bed, where Rachel was moaning freely, trying out every position she could think of. In the middle of it, she giggled and asked, "Baby, do you like being with me more, or with Emily Lynn?" Ethan's voice was hoarse. Rachel, ever since I've been with you after high school graduation, I haven't looked at anyone else. Then let's have a baby too, she whispered. Ethan didn't give a clear answer, but his silence spoke volumes. After tossing aside protection, he doubled down with even more energy. I shut off the surveillance feed. Even though I had mentally prepared myself for this, I still couldn't stop the nausea rising in my chest. The sight of a scumbag and a snake getting it on was enough to burn my retinas. So they'd already slept together before college. If they loved each other so much, couldn't they have just lived happily together? Why did they have to ruin someone else's life? I placed my hand gently on my belly and thought about the daughter who'd been pushed off a building with me in my previous life. The sadness hit me like a wave. The most beautiful years of my life, the truest love I gave, the closest family and friends I cherished, had all been destroyed by those two monsters. The next morning, Ethan showed up at the company bright and early. I brought him straight to the chairman's office. My dad greeted him warmly. "Vincent, now that you and Emily are expecting, we're truly family. Your mother and I are just looking forward to becoming grandparents and enjoying our retirement. Do your best, make something of yourself, and we'll feel confident handing over the company to you." Ethan's expression shifted subtly, a kaleidoscope of emotions flashing across his face. His eyes flicked toward me, full of unspoken questions. I gave him a reassuring nod. Immediately, he turned back to my father and pledged his full commitment. After that, I brought him to my office and pushed him into the role of general manager. I pointed to the newly printed nameplate on the desk. Ethan Carter, general manager. 5 bold letters. Everything seemed to be going far too smoothly. Ethan was overjoyed, reaching out as if to grab my hand and ask for clarity. I dodged his hand and gave his shoulder a pat. "Relax. With the little killer in my belly watching you, you can sit in that chair for now. But you'll need to produce results soon if you want to earn my parents' trust and truly take over the Lynn Group. Emily, I've always believed in you. You have talent and potential. You just needed an opportunity," he said with what he probably thought was sincerity. "Some people just happen to be born into the right family," Ethan added reflexively, then seemed to realize he'd said too much and quickly changed his tone. "But don't worry, Emily. I'll do everything I can to make sure you and the baby live a worry-free life." "Of course I believe you," I said with a light smile. Then I pulled a contract out of the drawer, the one our HR department had just finalized. "By the way, to help earn everyone's respect, and to show your true ability, my parents have decided to set your annual salary at just $1. "What? No salary? What about bonuses or shares?" Ethan blurted out in shock. I pulled the contract back slightly and said calmly, "Do we really need to divide things so clearly between family? You don't have to sign it. Besides, neither of us is short on money. I'd hate to see you feel wronged." Ethan snatched the contract from my hands and scrawled his signature across the bottom without hesitation. "Of course not. This is just a test from your parents. I understand completely." I had expected him to sign. In my past life, thanks to Rachel's manipulations, I had foolishly transferred all my money and multiple properties to Ethan before our wedding, under the label of voluntary gifts, just to give him security and preserve his pride. After we got married, every cent of my earnings, along with the allowances my parents gave me, went straight into his pocket, all under the noble-sounding excuse of a joint marital account. He wasn't short on cash now. Obviously, he'd choose to play the long game for bigger reward in that life. I had handed over every core secret and client file from the company to him. Ethan was a quick study. He picked up the operations rapidly and, over time, began to build his own faction within the company. His ambition grew until one day, he decided to kill my parents to clear his path. But this time around, my parents had already spoken to the key people in the company. They'd assigned all the dirty, grueling tasks to Ethan under the noble-sounding label of helping Vincent build experience. The company's leadership was filled with sharp, seasoned veterans. No one would be easy to fool. Of course, Ethan understood the logic behind it all. At first, he constantly complained to me. "Emily, is our company really that short-staffed? Why do I have to handle even the number of toilet paper rolls in the restrooms? I'm the general manager." I comforted him with a smile. "My parents see you as a successor. A GM's role can be big or small, depending on how you treat it. They want you to experience every aspect of the business so you'll be ready to take the reins someday. But if you really think it's too exhausting, I can talk to them and ask them to reduce your workload. Oh, so that's what this is, he said, clearly shifting gears. Of course, I'm not afraid of hard work, but since I joined the company, I haven't been involved in a single project. No one reports to me. Do your parents not believe in me? Show them what you can do. Who knows, maybe they'll hand you something big soon, I said, launching into my motivational pitch. That was all it took. Ethan dove headfirst into his fantasy of building an empire. He started going in early and coming home late, always rushing around like he was saving the world. Meanwhile, Rachel had nothing to do. Bored out of her mind, she was lounging around like a trophy wife. One day, I returned to the house Ethan and I shared, pushing open the door only to find her in my silk nightgown, delicately sipping bird's nest soup like she owned the place. She jumped up, pretending to be thrilled. Emily, you're back. I missed you so much. If you missed me so much, why didn't you come see me at my parents' place? Clearly she didn't mean a word of it. I gave her nightgown a cold glance. Looks like you've gotten pretty comfortable here. She smiled sweetly. Yeah, I didn't bring enough clothes. Hope you don't mind, Emily. I do mind, I replied. Taking without asking is stealing. I didn't realize you were so fond of theft. Rachel's expression twisted with embarrassment. In the past, she'd had free rein over all my things, using or even taking them without hesitation. Is it the pregnancy hormones? Emily, you seem a little on edge, she said, trying to play it off. Nope, I said calmly, my serious face softening into a smile. Rachel, did you know? I've never liked anyone touching my things. But you were different, because I thought of you as my best friend. I treated you better than I treated myself, heaven knows that's the truth. Her expression was so sincere, so convincing that I almost couldn't tell she was lying. Almost. A woman who lives off lies like they're her daily bread. Terrifying. Is that so? I added. Then prove it. Go fetch me a basin of warm water and wash my feet. Rachel looked stunned. For a second, I saw a flash of deep resentment cross her face, but she quickly smiled again. No problem. Watching her kneel down and prepare the footbath, I realized for the first time just how satisfying it could be to play the villain. Rachel, I'm hungry, I said casually. Go make dinner. She frowned. Can't we just order takeout? I don't really cook. Takeout isn't good for the baby. Home-cooked meals are healthier. Come on, you've always been a good cook. Don't be modest. You won't even help with something this small. Rachel sulked off toward the kitchen. When the food was ready, I held my stomach and told her I felt nauseated and couldn't eat. Watching her frustration grow while I smiled sweetly filled me with pure delight. Ethan didn't come home that night. Said he was working late and crashed at the office. This continued for several days straight. A week later, Rachel suddenly announced she wanted to move out. I confronted her. You didn't say anything about moving out when you were living here alone with Ethan. But now that I'm back, suddenly it's time to leave? Rachel flinched. No, Emily, don't misunderstand me. I'll miss you, actually. That's why I want to go. Now that you're home, I don't want to be a third wheel and intrude on your couple time. If that's how you feel, I won't stop you, I said calmly, pulling a set of keys from the drawer. How about staying at the villa in Moonview Hills? Rachel's eyes widened. Wow, Emily, why don't you live there? Didn't want Ethan to feel inferior, I said with a half smile. Rachel gave me a knowing look. Moonview Hills was one of the most luxurious residential communities in Clearview. Every resident was either rich or powerful, fully furnished, fully stocked. You only had to bring yourself. Perfect for resting during pregnancy. In my mind, I replayed the image of Rachel last night, dancing around the bedroom with a positive pregnancy test in hand. I had seen it all. After she left, I lay on the bed, completely bored. I called Ethan and told him to come home and cook for me. I called twice. Both times the line was busy. 2 hours later, a man appeared at my door, his hair greasy, dark circles under his eyes, and sunken cheeks. You look exhausted, I said with a voice full of feigned sympathy. Ethan gave a tired smile, the kind that seemed to carry the weight of the world. I honestly don't remember the last time I slept. Oh my God, I gasped lightly. How can your work efficiency be that low? Emily, he said, eyes dull with fatigue, don't you feel even a little sorry for me? He looked completely worn down. I just came from your parents, he went on. They scolded me, saying I don't take care of you, don't love you enough, and they don't even know what I do all day. But I've been working my ass off, solving all kinds of issues for the company, and they still won't give me a real project. I gave him a look of mock encouragement. Only through hardship can one rise above others. Maybe we should just hire a housekeeper, Ethan offered. With how busy you are lately, I'm worried you won't be able to take care of me. I rolled my eyes. Please, why waste money like that? If your mom finds out, she'll definitely be upset again. Just whip something up. I'll make do, I said casually. His mom had only visited once and claimed I was too idle, so she promptly fired all the housekeepers. Ethan choked on his words and quickly changed the subject. Emily, your parents gave you a villa, didn't they? Why'd you hide that from me? I opened my phone and showed him Rachel's social media post. 9 glamorous photos of her in the villa, already flooded with likes. She only told me because I asked, Ethan said quickly, glancing at the screen. Don't blame her. Really? I said with a cool smile. Well, technically, my parents didn't give it to me. It's just under my name temporarily. They could take it back any day, so instead of letting it sit empty, why not let Rachel stay there? Don't you think that makes more sense? Of course, whatever you say, Ethan replied. But your parents only have one daughter. Even if they take it back now, it'll eventually all come to you anyway. You might as well ask them to officially transfer the deed to your name. It'll avoid any issues down the line. He said it gently, eyes full of what looked like affection. Back then, I would have thought he was being thoughtful. Ethan, you're so considerate, I said sweetly. I'll talk to them about it. He was thrilled. But what he was really happy about was that once the property was under my name, he could find a way to quietly transfer it to himself, and by extension, to Rachel. He really knew how to take care of her. He loved her deeply. That much was clear. Over the next few days, Ethan started skipping work altogether. Whenever I wasn't paying attention, he'd sneak over to the villa to see Rachel. The place was cleaned regularly, but otherwise, she had it all to herself. With such a predictable routine, it was easy for them to schedule their little rendezvous. Watching them through the surveillance cameras, I saw it all. Their sweet, intimate exchanges, the way they spoke as if no one else in the world existed. Rachel beamed with pride as she told Ethan she was pregnant. He looked like he might faint from happiness, swearing to the heavens that he'd give her and the baby a wonderful life. Of course, the condition was only if they could seize my family's fortune. Honey, Rachel said, her voice soft and sickeningly sweet. Words aren't enough. You're still nothing at the company. You need to think of a way fast. Otherwise, when the baby's born, we'll still have to hide like rats. Ethan nodded like a loyal soldier. Rachel continued proudly. I've already moved several properties and a large sum of money under the guise of failed investments. Emily's such a gullible fool. She believes everything I say and never asks questions. Even if we divorce now, that money alone would be more than enough for the 3 of us to live comfortably for the rest of our lives. Rachel, maybe we should stop while we're ahead, Ethan said hesitantly. Tears immediately welled up in her eyes. She cried like a delicate flower, all pitiful and lovely. Stop, that's not enough, not even close. She looked straight at him, her voice sharp with urgency. Ethan, think about it. The money we have can't even buy the villa I'm staying in now. It's nothing. I don't mind suffering, and I know you don't either, but how could you let our precious baby suffer too? How could he ever compare to that bastard growing inside Emily Lynn? No, I won't allow that. I want everything from the Lynn family, and I want both Emily and that damn child of hers dead. She grabbed Ethan's arm, eyes brimming with hatred and desperation. Please, Vincent, I'm begging you. Can you really do that for me and our baby? Rachel asked, her voice trembling. Ethan clenched his fists. It breaks my heart to see you cry, Rachel. You're right, I was being short-sighted. We have to think about our child. I'll make sure he's born above everyone else, standing on top of the world. The rest of those nobodies shouldn't even have the right to exist. Blinded by love and madness, what a perfect match they made. Shameless to the core, united in greed and evil. Well then, I had to consider how to help them succeed, didn't I? So when Ethan got home, I was sprawled on the couch, sighing dramatically, as if burdened by stress. It worked. He took the bait immediately. What's wrong, Emily? I put on a tired, worried look. The biggest company in Clearview Joe Group is about to open bidding for a major project. I've been trying hard to win it, but now that I'm pregnant, I might have to give it up. It's just too difficult. Joe Group? Ethan's eyes lit up. Tell me everything. 3 months ago, the Zhou family's only son, Evan Zhou, returned from overseas and took over this project himself, I explained. He's known to be strict, fast-paced, and highly secretive. It's nearly impossible to get the contract, but if we do, it would be enough to cement your position in the company. Emily, you've got connections and experience. Can you help me? Ethan asked eagerly. I don't want to get involved, I said, feigning hesitation. But I might know someone who could help. The question is, would you be willing to approach him? Boo. Zach Zhao. He was your college classmate, right? Zach Zhou? Ethan looked shocked. Wait, he's related to Evan Zhou? Yep, but you two never got along, did you? Probably best to forget it. There's no one else? I gave him a troubled look and shook my head. Not for now. Ethan hesitated, obviously weighing his options. I smiled subtly. Knowing him, his pride wouldn't stop him from using someone if it meant getting what he wanted. A little bad blood wasn't going to matter. 2 weeks later, my people reported back. Ethan had approached Zach Zhao. As expected, Zach completely ignored him. In our first year of college, Ethan and Zach were on relatively good terms. Then, one day out of nowhere, they had a massive falling out. Zach publicly called Ethan a hypocrite with the heart of a beast, shameless and disgusting. They ended up in a fistfight in front of everyone, and from that moment on, they treated each other like enemies, complete strangers. Just before graduation, Zach had even pulled me aside to warn me about Ethan. I didn't take it seriously back then. I thought they just had unresolved grudges, and Ethan's sweet words and gentle gestures had completely blinded me. But looking back now, Zach had probably been the only one with a clear head. An enemy of my enemy was a friend. Eventually, Ethan swallowed his pride. He showed up at Zach's door multiple times, apologizing and begging, until Zach finally started to soften. On one condition, Ethan had to organize a reunion, inviting all the old classmates still living in Clearview. It hadn't even been 2 years since graduation. Everyone still remembered the drama from back then. At the dinner party, Ethan sat with his head low, clinging to a glass of wine, a forced smile stretched across his face. In front of everyone, he turned to Zach and said, "Zach, I'm sorry. I was immature. Let's put the past behind us." His tone was submissive, almost pathetic. Zach's face was unreadable. He gave a dismissive, barely acknowledging the apology, a trace of contempt in his eyes. All eyes at the table darted between the two of them, eager for drama. The air was thick with smoke and alcohol, laughter and tension buzzing all around. Listening to the scene unfold through the hidden mic, I couldn't stop smiling. My only regret was not being there in person to enjoy it. Later that night at the villa, Rachel was crying again, looking like a delicate flower after a storm. My poor Ethan, she wept. But Ethan didn't regret a thing. He was about to earn his chance to rise from the ashes, and he thought it was all worth it. Ethan turned to Rachel with calm conviction. Sure, I may have sacrificed the little dignity I had left from college at that reunion, but I weighed the pros and cons. When it comes to profit, what's self-respect worth, really? And those so-called righteous people at that table, most of them just rely on their privileged backgrounds. What are they so proud of? One day, we'll be the ones stepping over them. Watching from the surveillance screen, I couldn't help but sigh. Being shameless while fully self-aware of your tactics, that kind of resourcefulness was a terrifying kind of power. In life, true success comes from walking the right path. Too bad neither of them ever planned to. And right after Ethan finished spewing his grand nonsense, he came home and asked me for money. I spread my hands. All my money is already in your hands. Manage it however you like. Emily, I lost my previous savings in a bad investment, he said. Can you ask your parents for more? That's not like you, I replied coldly. You really want my parents to think less of you now, after all the effort you've put in? Wouldn't that make everything you've done so far meaningless? Emily, you want to win the Zhou Group contract too, don't you? Well, now you've got the connection, but without the money, we can't make anything happen. No money? I raised an eyebrow. What about all the money my parents gave you over the years? You'll have to explain that to them yourself. If they find out you blew it all, what do you think they'll do? Still trust your competence? Still hand you the company? I rubbed my temples. Figure it out yourself. Come with integrity, leave with shame. Ethan knew when to retreat. I didn't know how he convinced Rachel, but in the end, she reluctantly forked over a large sum of money, a painful sacrifice, for greasing the wheels behind the scenes. With that, Ethan was more confident than ever about winning the Zhou Group contract. Just before the bidding, Lin Group held one final internal meeting to review the strategy. Ethan walked in beaming, already celebrating as if the deal were sealed. The projection screen was lit, the meeting proceeding in an orderly fashion. Suddenly, the image flickered, and the presentation was replaced by a video. Within seconds, the screen displayed a graphic, obscene scene. Everyone froze. The stars of the video, Ethan Carter and Rachel Young. Ethan jumped up and screamed, "Turn it off! Turn it off!" In his panic, he nearly tripped over the power cords, his hands trembling as he slammed the button to kill the feed. But it was too late. That footage spread like wildfire online. The headline read, "Shocking. Lin Group's son-in-law caught cheating with daughter's best friend." The scandal exploded. Naturally, Ethan was immediately ousted from Lin Group. He screamed hoarsely that he was being framed. Who else could have installed a hidden camera in my house? It had to be Emily Lin. No one else. Stressed and pregnant, I ended up in a private hospital, placed on bed rest due to a risk of miscarriage. Ethan stormed in and accused me directly. Lying in bed, lips pale and weak, I looked at him and said, "Business is war. Do you really think I'd sabotage my own company's future just to take you down? I didn't even know that project was tied to you and Zhou Group. That contract is a giant target. So many competitors are fighting for it. How can you be sure who really pulled the strings? You have no idea how deep and twisted this world can get." Ethan's jaw clenched, his lips twitching. It looked like he was being crushed under his own fear and guilt. The next second, he dropped to his knees beside my hospital bed. "Emily, I was wrong. I never should have doubted you. That video, it was fake, edited. There's nothing between Rachel and me. We're just friends, that's all. Please, please believe me. Can you talk to your parents? Clear this up?" I slowly closed my eyes and squeezed out a few tears. "Don't worry," I whispered. "Of course I believe you, but my parents need to believe it too." I pulled out a document from my bedside table, a prenup my lawyer had prepared in advance. "Take a look." Ethan took it and skimmed through. The clause was clear. If I, Emily, am ever found guilty of infidelity, I will immediately agree to a divorce, forfeit custody of the child, transfer all property to Ethan, and leave with nothing. His face changed instantly. He gritted his teeth, every muscle in his body tensing with rage. The next second, he sprang up and slammed the document down on the table. "Emily Lin, are you messing with me? You didn't even cheat." "Why are you so worked up?" I asked calmly. "Or was everything you just said to me a lie?" "Of course not," Ethan replied quickly. "But this agreement is just too much. I need time to think about it." "You don't have to sign it," I said, sliding another document in front of him. "You can take a look at this one instead." It was a divorce agreement. His face darkened. "Are you trying to destroy me? I've given everything for this project. I'm not going to just give up." "Then pick one," I said, expression unchanging. "You have two choices." "Emily Lin, you've changed," he muttered, his voice heavy with disbelief. "When did you become so aggressive, so unreasonable?" His eyes were filled with frustration and disbelief. I responded with a cold smirk. "Oh, and don't forget to call Rachel. Make sure she's out of the villa by nightfall. My security team is heading over to reclaim the property. If she's still there when they arrive, things could get undignified." "You're going too far," he snapped. "Rachel is innocent. How can you treat your best friend this way, just because of a baseless accusation?" "That villa was mine to begin with," I said flatly. By the time Ethan rushed over to the villa, Rachel had already moved out. What he didn't know was that shortly after moving into Moonview Hills, she'd managed to latch onto a new target, Zachary Zhao, Evan Zhou's younger half-brother. Zachary had been raised in secrecy outside the family, never acknowledged publicly. He was a wild, free-spirited playboy with a notorious love for beautiful women and a tendency to live recklessly. I'd once subtly warned Rachel that the neighbors in that luxury estate were all wealthy and powerful, and that she should keep a low profile. Predictably, she did the exact opposite, turned on the charm full force and threw herself at Zachary with everything she had. Just as she was working both sides, the sex tape scandal broke. Realizing she could no longer count on Ethan, Rachel panicked and moved out of the villa almost immediately. She terminated the pregnancy and relocated to a nearby city, moving into a property next door to Zachary's. She dreamed of becoming his pampered mistress, like a canary in a gilded cage. Ethan couldn't reach her for days. He spiraled into desperation, calling me constantly, texting nonstop, demanding to know what I had done to Rachel. Finally, I sent him a location. We met at a private restaurant in the neighboring city, a secluded courtyard with a private room. I came with a lawyer and 2 bodyguards. Ethan showed up looking like a stray dog. "Emily Lynn, are you threatening me?" he growled. "Not at all," I said lightly, "but if you sign the papers, I might be able to find out where they are." His pupils dilated. His brows furrowed into a deep crease. He looked hideous. I must have been blind to ever think he was handsome. "Honestly," I continued, "this agreement isn't even that unfair. You cheated during the marriage and fathered an illegitimate child. Giving up custody and leaving with nothing is what you should do. As for the house and the savings I transferred to you before the wedding, I won't take them back. Ethan, I've already gone above and beyond for you." He hesitated, trying to weigh his options. But in the end, he loved Rachel more. Always had, in both this life and the last. His hands trembled as he picked up the pen. Eventually he signed. "You happy now?" he snapped. "Tell me where Rachel is. If anything happens to her or the baby, I swear I'll destroy your whole family." I put the signed agreement away and stood up, sliding on my sunglasses. "Relax," I said, cool and composed. "She's perfectly fine. You'll see her in about half an hour, right here." I left the restaurant's private courtyard but made sure to leave someone behind to record the reunion. I didn't want to miss the drama. Dog Eat Dog was always the best kind of show. The restaurant was peaceful, the garden lush and beautiful. I had picked this particular private room because its window gave a clear view of every guest walking in. Ethan sat there, eyes locked on the entrance, afraid to blink. And then, just as expected, in walked Rachel. She was radiant in a custom designer dress, adorned in sparkling jewelry that was clearly worth a fortune. She clung to Zachary Joe like a blooming vine, swaying seductively as she walked in. Ethan looked like a lion about to explode. He stormed up to Rachel and growled, "Rachel, are you okay? Who is this guy?" Rachel's scalp practically tingled with panic. She had moved to a different city thinking she could avoid running into Ethan, planning to slowly phase him out of her life. "I'm fine," she said nervously. "I'll explain everything later. Just go for now, okay?" Zachary narrowed his eyes. "You're the Lynn family's son-in-law, right?" Rumors about Ethan had made their rounds in his circle. He had seen the viral scandal online. Even though the faces in the video had been blurred, Ethan's identity had still been exposed. The woman, however, had remained anonymous. Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he reached out to pull Rachel toward him. Rachel instinctively backed away and hid behind Zachary. Seeing the woman he loved recoil from his touch and noticing Zachary's high-end clothes, Ethan's heart sank. "You don't love me anymore," he said. "You found someone better." Zachary let out a cold snort. What a goddamn joke. And here I thought she actually had feelings for me. He turned and glared at Rachel. "Are you the woman in that video?" "No, Zach, you have to believe me," Rachel cried, rushing to explain. But Ethan cut her off. "So what if she is? Rachel, I'm the one who truly loves you. I already divorced Emily Lynn. Come with me. Let's raise our baby together. We can finally live the life we dreamed of." "A family?" Zachary's chest heaved with rage, and without warning, he slapped Rachel hard across the face. "You filthy liar." Rachel dropped to her knees in tears. "Zachary, I didn't lie to you. You're the only one I love. I even had an abortion for you. Please, don't leave me." Ethan snapped, completely losing it. He lunged toward Zachary, fists clenched, but before he could throw a punch, Zachary's bodyguards tackled him to the floor and dragged him out of the restaurant. That's where the video ended. I generously rewarded the person who recorded it, and now I was curious to see what Ethan would do next. Hopefully, he wouldn't disappoint me. Soon after, someone reported to me that Ethan had gotten in touch with an oil tanker driver, a known gambler. But this time, the target wasn't my parents, it was Zachary Joe. Because even though Zachary had grown tired of Rachel, she refused to leave. For a woman obsessed with money and power, Ethan was no longer useful. She lowered herself to anything, flattery, seduction, even humiliation, just to stay by Zachary's side. He was her last shot at survival. Ethan, meanwhile, spiraled into madness. He started drinking heavily, losing all sense of control, teetering on the edge of insanity. Eventually, he snapped. I brought this information to Evan Joe. That cold, elegant man responded with indifference. It's best we stay out of other people's karma. But I knew him well. Beneath that calm surface was a storm. 1 week later, Zachary Joe died in a traffic accident. His mistress, his mother, died shortly after from a heart attack brought on by grief. Then, Joe Group's patriarch, Mr. Joe, suffered a massive stroke and was rushed to the ICU. Evan Joe took full control of the company. Meanwhile, Lin Group, despite being tarnished by scandal, became the dark horse that shocked the entire industry by winning the Zhao Group contract. I raised my tea in place of wine and said, "Thank you, President Joe, for your trust." Evan downed his drink in one go. "No need to thank me. I didn't do you any favors. If anyone deserves thanks, it's your own talent." I smiled modestly, slightly guilty. After all, I had shredded Ethan's original project proposal and replaced it with a near-perfect one based on my memories from my previous life. It did feel a little unfair. But I had also helped Evan eliminate 3 people who had driven his biological mother to her death and prevented him from being poisoned by Zachary's mother, changing his tragic fate. That credit I fully deserved. As I was leaving, Evan handed me a briefcase. It was full of the money Ethan had used to try and bribe his way through the bidding process. "Returning it to its rightful owner," he said. I accepted it without hesitation. Just as the gossip was starting to die down, another bombshell hit the headlines. Shocking. Former Lin Group son-in-law implicated in attempted murder. Someone had sent an anonymous tip to the police, complete with evidence. Ethan and the oil tanker driver were arrested one after the other. With the evidence stacked against them, both men were inevitably facing the death penalty. I had someone deliver the full story, including the motive, the chain of events, and Rachel's current location, to Ethan's mother. In a fit of madness, she grabbed a pair of scissors and went to find Rachel. The 2 women got into a violent struggle. Rachel died on the spot. Ethan's mother fell down the stairs during the chaos and suffered a fatal injury as well. Before the sentencing, I paid Ethan a visit in prison. His eyes were blank, his spirit utterly broken. He said nothing. I looked him in the eye and said, "Your mom killed your goddess. Then she fell down the stairs and died. Are you happy now?" As soon as he heard that, he exploded, screaming curses, slamming his fists against the glass barrier with all his strength. The guards rushed in to restrain him. The way he looked at me was filled with the most bitter hatred a human could carry. But in this life, I had won. The ones going to hell were all of them. Is this the ending you were hoping for, Ethan? 3 years later, I had fully taken over Lin Group. Under my leadership, we became the Joe Group's most important strategic partner. My parents, now officially retired, spent their days traveling the world with my daughter, savoring the joy of life and watching her grow. I helped Uncle Jean retire early as well, giving him double his salary so he could enjoy the peaceful life he'd earned. On New Year's Eve, I got a call from Evan Joe. "Emily Lin," he said. "Want to go on a date?" I laughed and said yes. He picked me up and drove us to the riverside. Massive fireworks exploded above us, raining petals of light down from the sky. The spectacle dazzled my eyes, a cascade of colors painting the heavens like a living dream. Evan gently cupped my face in both hands. His warm breath brushed against my neck. Then his lips softly pressed against my cheek. Above us, the fireworks blazed in glorious splendor. Below, the city sparkled with life.